This is what happens when you put smoked Thor's hammer into your lasagna. First I trim down the fat and the sinew. Then I'm going to render that fat down and save it to cook with. I tied the whole thing up with butcher's twine and then I painted it with some of that rendered beef fat and covered it in a herby rub. That goes into my smoker for about 4 to 5 hours until it hits 76°C internal. I pour in some beef stock, cover and return to the smoker for another 4 or 5 hours until it is 96°C internal. If you prefer, you can also do this second phase in an oven. I'm left with this tender, smoky feast. Incredible for sandwiches, but for the lasagna I'm turning it into a thick ragu. For the sofrito I'm using a mincer because I'd seen an Italian Michelin style restaurant do it and I love not having chunks of vegetables in the sauce. Olive oil goes into the pan followed by that sofrito. A little bit of salt goes in at this stage and I let that sweat down for a few minutes. Then I'll add in some tomato paste which I'll cook out until there's some good colour on the bottom of the pan, but not burnt, before deglazing with some red wine. When that's cooked down to this consistency, I'll add in some of that smoked beef. So obviously this meat is already cooked, but we're just bringing it together and cooking it again so all those flavours can come together and so that the final ragu is not too wet for a lasagna. Top that up with a lovely gelatinous beef stock, followed up with some good quality crushed tin tomatoes. A little more seasoning at this stage, and then to a bouquet garni bag I'll add in some sage, bay leaves, thyme and rosemary. That goes in for the rest of the cook. Oh, and I almost forgot to add the passata too. Whilst that's going, I'll get on with my bechamel, so into a pot with some butter, follow it up with the same weight of plain flour. Now once it's sandy, add in some warm milk until you get the consistency you're looking for, which should ideally be on the thicker side for lasagna. Season that to taste, and then I also like to grate in some fresh nutmeg and add some white pepper. I'm making my own lasagna sheets because what am I going to do? Go to all this trouble and not make my own pasta? Of course I'm going to. So after I've thoroughly kneaded my dough, I wrap it up to stop it drying out and I leave that for 30 minutes to rest. I cut it into quarters, wrap the rest and then roll this piece out, ready to go through my pasta machine in ever decreasing thickness. So each time I roll it, I do it twice at each individual setting, turn it down 1 notch, go through again twice. Once I have the thickness I like, I tend to blanch it to stop it from going gummy. This also enables it to hold better for building the lasagna so it doesn't tear. And then to build this lasagna, I'll first put down a layer of bechamel, follow that up with the pasta sheets, and then we're into the first full layer. So more bechamel spread evenly, then some of that beautiful ragu, which you can see is thickened up nicely. Then I like to break up some mozzarella, which isn't traditional, but you might have noticed that I'm not exactly doing traditional here. And then I'll go for a harder cheese like Gruyere grated over the top. I'll repeat that for however many layers I need to get to the top. On this one I went to 4 layers, and the last layer on top I also grated over some Parmigiano Reggiano, or as we would say in England, Parmesan. Cover that in foil for a 20-minute cook and then uncover for another 20 minutes and you end up with this glorious beauty. And what came out honestly exceeded my expectations.